This is Richard Skinner in London presenting a BBC Rock Hour special. And this time, 60 minutes with Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. This Rock Hour I'll be talking with Pink Floyd's Roger Waters about his new solo career and playing tracks from his new hit album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, a concept built around the dreams and nightmares of one man's disturbed night's sleep. The opening section of Roger Waters' The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, featuring the unmistakable guitar playing of Eric Clapton. As you might expect of the man who brought you The Wall, Roger Waters has translated the album into a spectacular stage show, with film directed by Nick Rogue and designed by Gerald Scarfe. For this rare interview, I met up with Roger Waters at his home in southwest London, and we started by talking about Pink Floyd. Why have the group decided to call it a day?
Pink Floyd isn't officially knocked on the head. But why aren't we ever going to do anything again? It's not much fun anymore, I think, is the answer to that. A few political problems within the organisation, which I'm not prepared to go into. And,
Political rather than personal?
Well, politics is about people, really, isn't it, Richard? No, personal, political, whatever you want to call them.
And it just seemed to make more sense to go out and do something under the name Roger Waters.
Well, no, it didn't quite happen like that. The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, this record, I made, let me get this right. When I was writing The Wall, I was writing this concurrently. So the bones of the two pieces I put down on tape. When I write something, I make a demo of it on my own first, and then start getting other people involved in it. And I made a demo of The Pros and Cons and a demo of The Wall in whenever it was, 1979.
Yeah.
Took them into the chaps and said, here you are, there's two pieces here, and I have a feeling that I'd like to make one of them as a solo project and do one of them as a band project, and I let them choose which one they would like to do as a band project. And they chose The Wall, so it's always been on the cards since then that I was going to make this as a solo thing. They didn't want to do the Pros and Cons anyway because they felt it was even more personal to me in terms of its content and philosophy and ideas, whatever, than The Wall was. And that it was better left to me.
To do your own deed.
That's right, yeah.
Why did you wait so long, actually, Roger, to do a solo thing? Because other people, I mean, the other boys did them back 10 years ago, didn't they?
Well, yes, they did. Well, I was sort of doing them anyway, you know, but they were called Pink Floyd records. But I was able to do anything that I wanted within the context of that, and it was very safe and comfy. That nice, big, warm name hovering over us all, protecting us, you know. And so I think it's always a struggle to take that step out into the big, dangerous world outside.
And then in the trees, I heard a twig snap.
That's the section 4:37 a.m. from Roger Waters' solo album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. This is Richard Skinner with a BBC Rock Hour special featuring Roger Waters and music from his album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. The record is as complex and ambitious as anything ever recorded by Pink Floyd, so I asked Roger to explain what it's all about.
Well, it's about a man in bed with his wife, waking from a nightmare, being soothed back to sleep again by his wife, then dreaming about driving in continental Europe, and about meeting and trying to seduce the girl in the red shoes, if you like, being thwarted, i.e. his subconscious fears conquering his lust, if you like. But anyway, he goes through all this stuff and dreams all kinds of dreams, and within the context of these dreams, his subconscious is weighing up the pros and cons of living with one woman within the framework of a family and all the good things that brings you, against the call of the wild, if you like. And at the end of the record, he wakes up and he decides that he's bloody glad he's where he is.
Actually,
that's
this
what
is,
it's about, really.
this really is every man's thoughts. I honestly believe so. Everybody
Yeah,
who's
well, of
married
course, yeah.
has thought this at some time.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's one of the great paradoxes of the design of human beings. Is the disparity between the hopes and aspirations of men and the hopes and aspirations of women. You know, and these disparities are presumably based upon the separate biological functions in terms of human survival. You know, that man has been designed to go out and everything he can in order to, you know, populate the world, and that we should multiply and spread. And it appears, from my limited experience, that by and large, women are far more interested in providing a safe place within which to rear children, and if possible, keeping the hunter there, hunting for them, you know, and trying as much as possible to stop him going off and chucking his spear somewhere else. But, you know, which may all be very simplistic, and I'm sure I should be attacked by all kinds of women, and probably men too, all over the world, but so what?
Shall we talk a little bit about all the fuss and bother that's occurring about the whole hitchhiking concept? You must have heard people saying that it's sexist, the cover of the record, that people are saying, and I think maybe they haven't listened closely, that you're pro the idea of poor girls going out there and having the worst done to them because they're hitchhiking, they're asking for it and things. Are you surprised at the reaction?
Oh yes, incredibly surprised. I'm not surprised at the reaction to the girl's bum on the cover.
Why did you put it there?
Well, it illustrates a sexual fantasy that occurred to me. So it's a sexual fantasy of mine, if you like. And I liked the image of the girl floating in front of that strange background. I thought it was dreamlike. I thought it reads dream to me, but maybe I was too engrossed in the thing, because it obviously doesn't to lots of other people.
A lot of girls have been ripping the posters down.
Yes, I know. Well,
streets,
to get on to that, the women against rape thing, or the sexism business, I don't understand at all. And if you can explain it to me, I'd be very happy to, you know, have it explained to me.
I'm not one of the people who ripped it down.
No,
That's the trouble,
I know, but I don't quite understand what sexist means within that context. Is sexism the same as racism? I should obviously bone up on this, because I don't really... Is it like... I mean, I can understand racism, where you don't get a job because you're black.
It's simply the using of a female image to promote something. I mean, it's like bra adverts. You know, they're taking them off the tubes.
Well, that's bloody ludicrous, isn't it? It's just... I mean, are they against using any images of human beings to promote anything? I mean, would the people who object to using pictures of women to sell things... do they object to using pictures of men to sell things? Or pictures of dogs? I mean, or pictures of anything? Are they objecting to... Or does it have to have a sexual connotation? I.e., if a piece of advertising appeals to our libido, does that make it wrong? And if it does, is it wrong whether it's a man smoking a cigarette appealing to either a woman's libido or a man's sexual feelings about himself? Is it wrong... whatever the sex... I don't understand it, you see. I don't understand what it is. To respond to it, really, I'd need whoever it was who was making the attack to sit there and explain to me what the problem was. Because I've thought about it, because I've had all this stuff, you know, coming in. And I can't make head nor tail of it, frankly.
I just cowered in the corner.
4:47 a.m. The Remains of Our Love. The music of Roger Waters from The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. You're listening to a Rock Hour special with Roger Waters, a music from his solo album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. What about the people you got playing with you this time? I mean, people like Mr. Clapton along the way.
Mr. Clapton, yeah.
An incredible collection of musicians you put together for this project.
Yeah, they are.
Why did you choose the people that you've got on it? I mean, was it difficult?
Well, not really. I'd always been a fan. Newmark, just Andy Newmark, the drummer, I've always been a fan of his playing. From, you know, right through all the Sly Stone stuff and all the work he did with Lennon and people. Well, he's worked with everybody. and he's just wonderful. And he did a bit of work on the final cut. He played on one track on the final cut, Two Suns in the Sunset. So when I was going to make this album, I immediately thought of him. So he did it. Eric, when I was making Pros and Cons, I kept thinking, well, who shall I use? You know, and going through sort of lists of guitarists, and I think he was always there in the back of my mind, and I think I sort of felt that I couldn't ring him up and ask him, you know.
What, because he's Eric Clapton?
Yes, exactly. I'm you know, subject to all those kind of myths as well. And in the end, Carolyn, actually, my wife, said, well, why don't you ring him up? So I did. And he said, and he was very interested, came and listened to the demo and said, yeah, I like it, I'll do it.
Because he is a very approachable bloke, actually,
Yeah.
isn't he? He's a very regular, ordinary chap, despite all the image that surrounds him, or did.
Yeah. Yeah, he is very approachable. But there's nothing at all ordinary about his guitar playing, which is quite extraordinary. I was talking to Jerry Scarf about it yesterday, in fact. He was saying, what is it? And I was about Eric's playing, and I was saying, well, it's the precision of it, you know. Over the years, he's kind of honed it to an incredibly precise art, which allows him to go off on wild, fanciful excursions, you know, which always come back to the right place and which work perfectly because he's technically so brilliant.
And yet he claims he's just a guitarist, doesn't he? He's
Yeah.
very retiring about his talent.
Yeah. He's very like Scarf, you see, in that way, because Jerry Scarf has this extraordinary technique as a draftsman, which means that he can go on a piece of paper, you know, appearing to work extremely quickly and with very little effort, and yet what's there when you look at it is, you know, is extremely precise.
Bringing somebody like Eric Clapton into your project, how much leeway do you give Eric to be himself, or do you still like very much to be calling the shots in that situation?
Yeah, I call the shots. In fact, that Eric, you know, when he started work on it, he said, you know, look, this is your record.
What, you're the governor?
Yeah, I'll do what you want me to do. You have to help me by telling me what you want. It's no good just going, well, do you want to play on this bit, Eric? Because it doesn't work, you know. And normally in any project like that, one person has to have the vision of what the thing is going to be like, and to apply that vision to it. Otherwise, things get all bitty and piecemeal.
5:01 a.m. The title track from Roger Waters' album The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. You're listening to a BBC Rock Hour special, an exclusive interview with Roger Waters. Although Roger's been consistently in the charts for over a decade with Pink Floyd, he seems to stand apart from the showbiz razzmatazz more usually associated with the music industry. So when he puts a record together, does he ever think about trends or the dictates of fashion?
No, I don't. It's hard enough, you know, it's hard enough making records or writing songs, having ideas, creating things without worrying about all that crap, you know. I mean, the only thing that matters to me is whether I can get whatever the central feeling is. You know, that's all my music is about, is communicating my feelings to other people, really, through the vehicle of, well, recorded music normally, or in this case, you know, shows, rock shows.
What do you think about pop that's around at the moment?
I think in a way it's like it always was. Some of it's very good and some of it's awful. And I think there are one or two new English bands who are writing in a way that I approve of. You know, I suppose Human League, you could say, maybe. Or I only listen to the radio. I only listen to the radio in the car when I'm driving about. I never listen, you know, to music apart from that, except occasionally I'll buy an album and listen to that in the car, but that's the only time I listen to music is in the car. So. But I hate all this bloody posing that's going on, you know, and the video promo film taking over, all that Duran Duran stuff. I find that extremely dull.
Why is that? Is it getting in the way of the music, or what?
Yeah, I think the selling becomes more important than the writing of the songs or the performing of the music. That becomes the important thing. So it's the projection of the product and the selling of it takes over from what it actually is, and what it actually is becomes less and less and less important, and the techniques involved in marketing it become more and more important. I think maybe this is just sour grapes.
Hello.
In a way, you are the sort of reluctant superstar, aren't you? I mean, this is a very rare event. Here we are sitting talking to each other. Why is that? Is it
What,
because you're shy or what?
Why don't I do it?
Yeah.
To be honest, I suppose because I haven't needed to until now. You know,
Hang on, manipulation of the media, Roger. What's going on here?
I'm motivated absolutely by the fear of wandering onto the stage and there being row upon row of empty seats. It's partly that. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. It's partly about my fear of the empty seats, but it's partly about the fact that I'm worried that when it's all over, this show, and gone, people will go, "Oh, Christ, I wish I'd gone to see that." And I can't do it again. You know, once it's over, it's over. It's not going to happen again. I mean, that may be being a bit big-headed, but I believe that that's kind of true. They'll go. But the interview thing, you know, is I think it's very easy to get sucked into. You know, you start doing them, and then as you do one, you've got to do. I'm going to go through hell after this because people are going, "Oh, well, you talk to him. You know, why won't you talk to me?" And I shall have to say, "Well, you know, I don't need it anymore. I don't need you anymore. The shows are over." Or one could get into a situation where one was doing it quite regularly, and then it starts using up your life. You know, and there's other things I'd rather do.
Roger, thank you for manipulating the media today and talking to us.
Thank you very much for coming.
I had a little bit of luck, you were weak, I couldn't take another moment alone.
The Moment of Clarity, the final section of Roger Waters' first solo project, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. You've been listening to a BBC Rock Hour special, an exclusive interview with Roger Waters, featuring the music from his solo album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. The programme was produced in London by Martin Reams, and I'm Richard Skinner. Join me again soon, right here on the BBC Rock Hour.